The rap game has seen its share of downfalls, but few have unraveled quite as publicly as Rick Ross. Week after week, the man who built his entire career on being untouchable keeps finding new ways to look anything but. Getting jumped after dissing Drake, slashing concert ticket prices just to fill seats, and now caught hiding under a hoodie at the airport boarding a commercial flight like the rest of us. So the question everyone's asking is simple. Is Rick Ross actually going broke? Well, as it turns out, that's not even the real story. The real story is that Rick Ross just lost something far more valuable than money. When Ross finally addressed the airport situation, he claimed his private jet was being updated with Starlink, $500,000 Wi-Fi, and that he simply chose to fly commercial to Colombia to party with Trick Daddy. Whether you believe that or not, it handed Drake a gift-wrapped punchline. Because on Iceman, Drake had already rapped, "If I'm lying, I'm flying economy. I bet I know who I see." The timing couldn't have been more brutal. And look, there's nothing wrong with flying commercial. Millions of people do it every day without a second thought. The problem is when you're Rick Ross, a man who spent the better part of a decade plastering his name across a private jet in massive font and turning luxury into his entire personality. That's when it becomes a problem. But before we get further into the jet story and what the flight logs actually reveal, there's a foundational detail we need to address first. Because Rick Ross' entire career was built on a lie. Before he was the biggest boss, before Jay-Z signed him and changed his life forever, William Roberts II, number 61, was a standout football player at Albany State University, attending the HBCU on a full scholarship. He was being recruited by everyone, a legitimate prospect. And while other rappers like Blueface also played college football before making it in music, no rapper in history has ever attempted what Rick Ross did next. Because if you ask him about the years between 1995 and 1997, you will get a different answer every single time. The truth that eventually surfaced, with a significant assist from 50 Cent and Ross' own ex-girlfriend, was that before the rap career, before the boss persona, Rick Ross worked inside a Florida prison as a corrections officer. A photo leaked onto the internet showing a 19-year-old William Roberts smiling in uniform, and the denials started immediately. In interview after interview, he rejected the story entirely, calling it false, calling those who spread it suckers. Years later, when he finally acknowledged it, he downplayed it, saying he was constantly late, lasted only 4 months, and never even made it inside the prison itself. Department records, however, told a completely different story. According to those records, Ross was hired in December of 1995 and didn't resign until 1997, a total of 18 months, and with perfect attendance. His salary at the time was roughly $26,000 a year. For most rappers, a scandal like this surfacing would have ended everything on the spot. Especially for a rapper whose entire brand was built around being a kingpin, a street boss, the largest figure in the room. That was exactly the image Ross leaned into when, in 2006, he sat down and in about an hour laid down his breakout single, Hustlin'. Combined with a record deal at age 29 through Jay-Z, the floodgates opened wide. His debut album went #1, an impressive achievement for any new artist. And almost overnight, his larger-than-life persona became synonymous with his name. The beard, the cars, the glasses, the Miami mansion. It all worked almost too well. Because as Ross successfully constructed this character, nobody stopped to ask where he actually came from. Even his name came with controversy. Freeway Ricky Ross, an actual drug trafficker and genuine figure in the world Ross was rapping about, accused the Miami rapper of stealing his name and likeness for clout, going so far as to file a copyright lawsuit against him in 2010. Despite all of it, Ross' music was strong enough that fans were largely willing to look past everything. Well, most fans. DMX was famously unimpressed, noting that Rick Ross rapped about eating, smoking, and flexing his Maybach, and not a lot else. But plenty of people disagreed, and the results showed it. Ross launched his own label, Maybach Music Group, and his second, third, fifth, and sixth albums all topped the Billboard charts, with his fourth narrowly missing the top spot at #2, only behind Eminem. So the real question is, with a run that dominant, where exactly did it all start falling apart? The honest answer traces directly back to Drake. Before Drake was laughing at Ross every stumble online, he was actually one of the biggest reasons Ross' image became as powerful as it did. The two shared a genuine chemistry that fans loved, and for over 15 years they weren't just occasional collaborators. They were one of the most reliable duos in the game. Early hits like Aston Martin Music and Stay Schemin', plus collaborative anthems alongside DJ Khaled, gave their partnership a track record that very few in the industry could match. Ross' lone billion-stream song on Spotify is his 2019 Drake collaboration Money in the Grave, with more Drake features filling out his entire top 10. The connection ran that deep. At one point, there were even serious conversations about a joint album titled YWLO. Ross himself said it was under serious consideration, and given Drake's history with collaborative projects, it would have made plenty of sense. As of now, that album is dead. Instead, in 2023, Ross linked up with Meek Mill for a joint project. 10 years earlier, that pairing would have been another easy number one. In 2023, despite Ross publicly emphasizing how much he still cared about album sales, the project sold far below anything in his catalog, only reaching number 23 on the charts, and was mocked by fans online as going certified paper plate. That would have been the perfect moment to reconnect with Drake, the most consistent commercial force in hip-hop for over a decade. Instead, what followed made that reunion impossible. In March of 2024, Future and Metro Boomin released We Don't Trust You and enlisted Kendrick Lamar to take shots at Drake, igniting hip-hop's biggest beef in years. And right there on that same album, 7 tracks later, was Rick Ross. For a man who had spent years publicly calling Drake his brother, appearing on that project sent a clear message. And then he made it even clearer, posting himself bumping Kendrick's diss track and unfollowing Drake on Instagram entirely. Drake's response came the following month. On Push Ups, his second verse opened by referencing Ross' current girlfriend, a sharp double meaning because beyond the obvious dig, it also called back to Tia Kemp, the mother of Ross' son, who had made an unforgettable statement on a podcast about Drake that turned into one of the more uncomfortable moments of the entire beef for everyone involved, including their son, who plays college football. Drake even called Kemp his GOAT after she commented on one of his posts, making sure the needle went in as deep as possible. The same day Ross unfollowed Drake, Drake posted an offer for VIP tickets and front row seats to his sold-out tour. Petty, deliberate, and timed perfectly. Ross didn't wait long to fire back. He recorded a diss track called Champagne Moments, shot a music video, and came with the classic ghostwriting accusations in the verses before sampling a clip of Drake praising him on stage during the outro. He also claimed Drake had sent a cease and desist to French Montana, accusing him of sending the police after his dogs. The cease and desist itself remains unverified, and French Montana has made clear that he and Drake are still on good terms. Even Ross seemed aware of that, which made the framing feel shakier than the track itself. What followed was a rapid back and forth on social media. Ross claimed Drake had surgery to alter his nose. Drake's mother texted him that Ross had gone, in her words, loopy. Ross mocked Drake for sharing the text message, calling him a cupcake. Drake fired back at Ross' waterfront mansion, which Ross bought for $35 million, calling it a content creator crib. The two went post for post, day after day. Then Ross made a move that crossed a line many felt he couldn't recover from. He publicly questioned the safety of Drake's private jet, calling it a 1978 cargo plane that was given away for free as promotion, and told people to wear their seatbelts before boarding it. Days later, Ross' own jet made a crash landing in Dallas. Nobody was hurt, but the photos spread everywhere. Drake liked the post. Ross responded by claiming Drake's fighter jet had shot him down, playing it off with humor, but the internet wasn't letting him off that easy. In July of 2024, Ross performed at the Ignite Music Festival in Vancouver and closed his set by blasting Not Like Us, Kendrick's diss track, in Drake's home country. The crowd did not respond well. Ross got punched in the face. His security was overwhelmed. One of his associates was knocked unconscious. Drake liked that video too. 50 Cent jumped in with a clip of Tia Kemp laughing, pointing out that Ross hadn't thrown a single punch. The image of the untouchable boss had been replaced by something entirely different. Drake's next solo single, What Did I Miss?, contained a bar about TLC that worked on 3 levels simultaneously. The wrestling pay-per-view where people get punched, the R&B group TLC with members named Chili and Left Eye, and the literal fact that Ross had just been hit on the left side of his face. It was layered, cold, and calculated. For an artist who had spent 20 years carefully constructing an image of power and dominance, the reality of what fans were now watching was doing serious damage. The sneak disses continued. Questions about the authenticity of his jewelry surfaced publicly. A jewelry expert went on record saying that a specific watch Ross had been wearing had only ever been produced twice, and that Ross didn't own either of the two known pieces. Then came 2026, and what might be remembered as the moment the illusion fully collapsed. Ross kicked off the year by telling his DJ to remove Drake's vocals from Aston Martin music during a performance, one of his biggest songs, a track that owes much of its cultural weight to exactly the collaboration he was now cutting out. Shortly after, Drake released Iceman, and on track 7, Make Them Pay, the name-dropping started. Along with LeBron and others who had switched sides, Drake took direct aim at Ross, noting how Adin Ross had been streaming his catalog for years and pointing to the simple reality that every song in Ross' top 10 includes Drake. Ross responded quickly, calling the album horrendous and trash, joking about the Drake fan base mourning. But the top comment across every video covering his response said what everyone else was thinking. Funny thing to say when you owe your entire career to the man you're laughing at. Even funnier when Ross' last album went triple copper and Drake had just broken Billboard history with his. Then came the concert tour situation. Port of Miami 20th anniversary. Seats priced at $122 for the nosebleeds, and row after row of empty blue chairs visible in the venue. A buy one get one 50% off deal was announced. Drake liked that post too. And then the airport footage. Rick Ross was spotted at the airport, hood up, apparently trying not to be seen, waiting to board a commercial flight. For a man who once had his name painted in giant letters across the side of his own private jet, the symbolism was impossible to ignore. According to official flight logs, that jet had not left the ground in over 4 weeks. The leading theory online was that he had sold it. His explanation was the Starlink update, the $500,000 Wi-Fi, and a personal choice to fly commercial to go party. 2 days after the airport footage went viral, Drake filmed a music video parked directly in front of his private jet in Turks and Caicos. He didn't need to say a single word. The timing said everything. Now Ross has pushed back his first solo album in over 5 years, Set in Stone, which was supposed to already be in stores. The cover art was widely mocked. The delay was mocked harder. And the underlying reason, according to most observers, was that Ross didn't want to debut behind Drake's month-old album. So is Rick Ross actually broke? A quick search puts his net worth somewhere around $150 million. He owns Wingstop franchises, real estate, and has built legitimate business infrastructure over the years. He has touched more money than most rappers ever will. But that was never really the question. The question was always about the character. And the moment people stop believing in the character, no amount of money buys it back. Rick Ross didn't lose his bank account. He lost something that took 20 years to build and only took one beef to destroy: the belief that he was exactly who he said he was. If you've made it this far, drop a comment with what you think comes next for Ross, whether you think the image can ever be rebuilt, or whether this is just the final chapter. And if you're new here, stick around. There's a lot more where this came from.